Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. Yeah, this is a radio show, all right. You know, a lot of times people say, "Hey, I heard your podcast." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate that." I'm like, what podcast outlet did you listen to the podcast on? I'm thinking, one of the SoundCloud or Spotify or wherever. They said, "Oh, no, I heard it on my local radio station." Well, then you weren't listening to the podcast. You were listening to the radio show. Charlie, does anybody care other than you and I? You and me, whatever it's supposed to be? Charlie says, "I don't know." I don't know. I guess as long as you're listening, that's what I should concentrate on. As long as you are listening and hear my voice, it doesn't matter what venue you hear it on, right? So thank you. Thank you for joining me this week. Thank you for sticking with me for so many years across my broadcast career in television and now in radio and some social media stuff as well. I do certainly appreciate it. So, since we talked last week, what has changed in the world? That's a loaded question, isn't it? What has changed in the outdoor world here in Michigan? I'll be more specific. Have you heard any cicadas buzz yet? I got a report last week from a couple of people who said, "Oh, yeah, we've heard cicadas buzzing for days now." And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. It's too early. Don't want to think about it. Don't want to go down that road. And then actually last night at our house, at the Avery house, I thought I heard the faintest buzz of a cicada. I can't verify. I can't be sure of it. I'm not confident enough in that to put it in my log, to put it on my calendar, because I keep track of this every year when I hear the first cicada buzz. Why do I care? I don't know. Why is it significant? Maybe it's not. I like to keep track of this because the old saying is it'll be a certain number of weeks from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until we get the first frost. I originally heard it as 6 weeks. Well, it's not 6 weeks, believe me. I've kept track of this. My dad used to keep track of this. It's not 6 weeks. It's maybe, it's not even 8 weeks, more like 10 weeks. But I guess the question is there a correlation from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until we get our first frost? Meaning, if the cicadas buzz earlier, will we get our first frost earlier, and vice versa? It seems to be that there is, there are patterns in Mother Nature, right? All kinds of patterns in Mother Nature. What else has changed? Well, I have the new Angler Quest. Da-da-da-da. The heavens opened, the angels sang, and the Angler Quest appeared at my dock, at my slip. It's a beautiful boat. Listen, every Angler Quest I've ever ran has been a beautiful boat, but it's interesting to see the evolution of these boats over the years. From this first vision, this first basically a prototype boat that Mr. Angler Quest Brad Dupuis put in the water many years ago, to this big fishing machine today. And again, every Angler Quest I've ever had has been a beautiful boat, but this one it's more solid. There's just something about it. The workstation in the back is absolutely beautiful. The fit and finish is the best ever. Some of the design tweaks are just so impressive. I have a 24-footer this time instead of a 26, and I don't think I'm going to miss that extra 2 feet in the bow at all. We put a 225 Merc on it. Thank you, Linwood Beach Marina, along with thank you, Brad Dupuis. And it performs like a champ. I control that thing down to almost nothing, as slow as I need to go. So it's a beautiful, beautiful boat. But now I'm facing the situation of trying to cram an entire summer of fishing, Saginaw Bay walleye fishing, into like 2.5 weeks. Because almost every year by the end of July, I'm done. So I'm working at it. I've been out on the water a couple times on that boat. It's an interesting experience to break in a new boat because every boat fishes a little bit differently, even if it's the same type of boat I've been using from year to year. And more than that, it was my gear that's been sitting in storage now since last summer. I'm not very good with keeping up fishing gear. You know, I'm not. You take a guy like Jason Graham of Send It Charters out of Linwood Beach. That guy he is a master. He is so technical. He is so detail-oriented. You know, he saw my gear that I was putting into the Angler Quest, and I thought he was going to cry. He tried to hide it from me. Jason, I know you tried to hide it. I don't know if it was a tear or if it was a look of disgust. So the first time I went out with my grandson Trent on a shakedown cruise, and I realized that all the pads on my offshore OR-12 boards, the orange clip in front, they'd worn out, and I had to replace them all. So I had to make a trip and go get those. Next time out, took along a couple of friends of mine, Brent and Gus. And I said, look at guys, this is a trip just for me to reacquaint myself with trolling, to try to get back in the groove of things, to try to remember how to do things. We're going to do some exploring. You know, I'm sure we'll hit my skinny water. If nothing there, we'll go out deep. And we did spend some time up in my skinny water, and we got some fish. A number 7 flicker minnows and spoons off jet divers on the back corners of the Angler Quest. But it was not on fire. Not like it had been, reports from my buddies days previous. So I reluctantly headed out to deep water. I am not a good deep water troller. I know the basics. I know the fundamentals. I know how to do things, but I don't have the confidence in those techniques in deep water. And listen, in anything probably, in life, you have to have confidence in what you are doing. The more confidence you have, the more you'll do it, the better you will be. The better you'll be, the more you'll do it, the more confidence you'll have. And I just don't do it enough to be real confident out in that deep water. I have, by the time you hear this show, I will have had one charity charter, and I suspect we will reluctantly end up deep unless I can make that first pass through that skinny water and it's on fire. Then I'm not leaving. If that's the case, I'm not going to leave. What else? Oh, a follow-up to last week's show. There was a question from a farmer about getting a crop damage permit for rabbits. And I checked with the DNR, and they said, yeah, you can, you know, if there is significant damage, it can be documented. We can give him a crop damage permit. And then a friend of mine, John Haderer, sent me an email, and he said, look, that was bad information. It says right in the DNR's own website, or maybe it's the hunting guide, I don't remember which, that you can shoot rabbits out of season if they are causing damage. He said, you don't need a crop damage permit. So, John, thank you for reminding us of that and, setting the record straight, I guess. The golf outing's coming up. Second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing's coming up Friday, July 25th. I just saw the numbers, and we're getting very close to being filled up, but we do still have some openings for golfers. Go to mucc.org/golf. Love to see you join us there. It's a fundraiser, as you know, to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. Is there anything better than getting kids in the outdoors these days? I mean, what outside of, all right, God, family, country, kids in the outdoors. That's my hierarchy right there. So it makes top 5 for sure. mucc.org/golf. We have openings for golfers. We also have, and we'll have an unlimited number of openings for sponsors for the event. A sponsor can be a cash donation. It can be if you have some goods or services that you would like to make available to us. And then we can use them in our auction as a fundraiser. We'll take them. mucc.org/golf. mucc.org/golf. I just texted Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. We continue to go back and forth, trying to finalize, trying to tweak, trying to get it just perfect, the Mike Avery Outdoors signature Rapid River knife. Chris is being very patient with me. I got to be honest, I'm being a little bit picky, and Chris is being very patient because I think Chris likes to do things the right way, and he wants things to be as good as possible as well. So keep an ear out for that. It's coming up. So who's coming up on this week's show? After the break, longtime outdoorsman and very active outdoor advocate Jim Felgenauer talks with me about sturgeon fishing. That season's coming up and more. In our second hour, Mark Copeland. Mark is the store manager for Jay's in Gaylord, but he's also a very avid archer. He talks about getting ready for the upcoming bow season. Is it too early to start thinking that direction? I can tell you for a fact, if you're a traditional archer, if you're shooting a recurve or a longbow, no, it is not too early. Then Adam Bump from the DNR to talk about the number of turkeys in Michigan. I have seen a definite decline. Will Adam buy into that? And then also he's going to stick around for the Ask Avery question, a very interesting one this week. And then in our third hour, Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. He's a captain out of Linwood Beach Marina. He spends the first part of the summer chasing walleye on Saginaw Bay. Now he's getting ready to make the transition over to Lake Michigan, I think Manistee, and fish salmon. What is the mindset? What is the change in mindset? What's the change in gear? What's that like? And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. This week, a sheephead recipe. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Love to hear from you. Want to know what's on your mind. I'm so glad you're with us. I hope you can stick around for the next 3 hours. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan, including WZTK in Alpena, that's 105.7 FM. Also WSJM in St. Joe, 94.9 FM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, let's see. Let's go to Killer Food Plots. KillerFoodPlots.com, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. You put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort into your food plots. So don't you want to maximize your chances of success? Now, what is success? Is it just getting a nice, healthy crop for your critters? Or does success mean you have to shoot a big buck off that food plot? I don't know. That's your call. But you want to maximize your odds. You want to get the best results possible, and I think Rich can really help you out there. Go to the website, KillerFoodPlots.com. That's KillerFoodPlots.com. You have likely taken a few-week break, right? Maybe you got them in a little earlier in the summer, or maybe you're waiting till August to get your food plots in. Regardless, check out Rich Krazan and the website, KillerFoodPlots.com, and each month we do a Killer Food Plots podcast, so keep an ear out for that as well. Right now, though, I want to talk to a guy I've known for many years. He is a guy who I have much respect for. His name is Jim Felgenauer. He was one of the guys who started the Sturgeon for Tomorrow group down in the southeast part of the state. He is a big promoter of sturgeon fishing in our state. But beyond that, Jim has been a proponent, an advocate of the outdoors, the outdoor lifestyle, about getting people involved in the fight to get people involved. So a lot of things to talk about this morning. Jim, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I am doing just fine, but I get the sense that though you retired last couple of years, I don't feel like you've slowed down much.
Maybe I've sped up a little bit, Mike.
Like Dixie Dave, you failed at retirement.
That's correct.
How did you get, Jim, to where you are? I mean, did you grow up in the outdoors?
Yes. Everybody else, I started fishing with my grandma and grandpa and my mom and dad. So it's been a lifetime.
And where was that you fished, and what did you fish for back then?
Well, we started out when I was a young man fishing for perch and walleyes of hand lining up in the St. Clair River near Marine City.
Boy, that fishery's come a long way, hasn't it?
Oh my God! So it's been a great spring, Mike. No, these are the good old days. No complaints.
I believe that too. I mean, a lot of people have complaints about the DNR. You can complain maybe about wildlife management, and there are some minor bumps in their fisheries management. But overall, I think they've done a fine job.
Yeah, Mike. And just briefly on that, I've been working with the DNR for about 20 years. And, I watched that joint session with the legislature. And, there are a lot of good, hardworking, dedicated, smart people within the Department of Natural Resources. They don't always get it right, but they don't always get it wrong either.
Yeah. You have been, outspoken to a degree, but more behind the scenes. I mean, you're a hardworking guy who doesn't hesitate to step up and volunteer. And we've had conversations before about this, but I want to talk more about it. We as hunters and anglers are kind of loners for the most part. We don't like to join. We don't like to get involved. But I don't think in today's world we have that choice anymore, do we?
No, and it was good to see the people there at that meeting, regardless of their opinions. They are there. They're actively involved. They're showing up. They're engaged.
You've been engaged in a lot of groups along the way. What are you working with now?
Well, my biggest project, I'm trying to build a fish cleaning station at a Michigan DNR boating access site. Those sites are funded through a restricted waterways account, and that is why the DNR can't build one themselves. I'm trying to build one down in Harrison Township at the Crocker Boat Launch. It's about a $217,000 project. We still need to raise about $97,000, and it will be the first time ever that you will have a fish cleaning station at a boating access site in Michigan.
How do you raise that kind of money? Where do you get it? Where's it come from?
I've got a grant from the Great Lakes Fisheries Trust for over $100,000, which is the first grant application I ever made. We're looking for corporate donations, of course, donations from anglers. I actually have an ad in the 2025 Michigan Fishing Guide. So, and that is online, available to 1-2 million Michigan anglers. There's 300,000 print copies out there. We're doing a raffle. We're looking for corporate sponsorship, private donations.
Everyone I know who has been involved in a fish cleaning station the last few years talks about the absolute hassle, the environmental hassle, of getting rid of fish guts and fish carcasses. How are you guys going to handle it there?
It will go into the sanitary. I had to get approval from 3 different water and sewer departments: Harrison Township, Macomb Public Works, and the Great Lakes Water Authority.
So you'll have a grinder there that'll grind them up to the point you can dump them.
Yes. So Barracuda 1 fish cleaning grinder.
What about
that machine itself is $70,000?
Oh well, yeah, there you go, right there. And then what about contaminants? Now, I don't believe our fish are contaminated. I think our fish are pretty clean, but there are levels of certain things in there that people are concerned about. How do you deal with those?
Well, the water and sewer departments are not allowed to process certain contaminants through their systems. Even if it comes from the water, they can't go through their system back into the water. So, our fish are not all that terribly contaminated here. Now, the salmon and whatever on the west side, they're fatty fish. They tend to accumulate contaminants, and that's why you have some fish cleaning stations on the Lake Michigan side that they actually, instead of having a grinder, that they have a big freezer there.
Yes.
Those entrails are kept in a freezer and sold to somebody for processing for fertilizer.
That's what I'm seeing more of, big freezers. Yes, the fish cleaning stations that I use routinely, and I give away more fish than I ever clean, they freeze them and get rid of them that way. All right, so this fish cleaning station that you want to get put in down there, is this a walleye hotspot? Is it a perch hotspot? How do you see it used for what species?
Yeah, primarily walleye and perch down here.
Okay.
The bass fishery is a catch and release fishery. There are some people that do keep and clean smallmouth bass, but primarily walleye, perch, and panfish.
All right, I'm going to make a very clumsy transition here now. So you would not be using this fish cleaning station for sturgeon, right? Because most people don't keep sturgeon, and they're not going to take them to the local fish cleaning station and fillet them up.
No, absolutely not. There's the culture around sturgeon fishing is the same as walleyes. It's very much a catch and release fishery. Really a ethical group of people that have taken up sturgeon fishing.
I've told you this before. I am so impressed with what you and the other members of Sturgeon for Tomorrow have done with bringing sturgeon and sturgeon fishing to the masses here in Michigan. It was a fish that we'd heard about but didn't have any experience with, and now everybody knows about sturgeon fishing. Jim, good job.
Well, thank you for that. And we had a little bit of a home run when the feds decided not to list lake sturgeon as a federally endangered species, right? So that's a home run on our part. We're glad to see that happen. Eventually, they're still considered a Michigan threatened species, but you know what? A lot of the things that they were threatened by no longer exist. The deforestation, siltation of the rivers. We're actually removing dams, which are blocking access to their traditional spawning grounds. Pollution's being cleaned up. Fishing is highly regulated. So all of those people-related things that were threatening the fish are being eliminated or reduced. And in fact, I think with people's attitudes and with what we're doing here, we're actually headed in the opposite direction with those fish.
All right. Some people are not going to understand why the feds not listing that fish is such a big deal. Help us out, Jim.
Well, because the same thing that happens with that in Michigan. We have an issue sometimes with wolves or cormorants, or which reduces the ability for management at a state level. So, you have a bunch of lawyers out of California or something filing lawsuits. They don't live here. They don't see what the problems are associated with federal management. And we need to be able to manage these things at a state level.
So if they would have been declared an endangered species, you would have no recreational, no sport fishing opportunities for them?
That's very much possible.
Yeah.
And that fishing opportunity is what creates the conservation, right? It's the anglers and the outdoorsmen and the people that are using the resource that are promoting and supporting the conservation.
The North American model of fish and wildlife management is the people who hunt them, who pay for that research and the facilities. It's, I got nothing against bird watchers, nothing against Tweety bird watchers, but when they walk through a marsh with their binoculars, they're not the ones paying for that marsh. It's the duck hunters who paid for that marsh, and people need to realize that.
Yeah, precisely. And, and I have no qualms about other people enjoying the resources, but again, I think we need to manage it on a local level. And, so it creates problems when you have people from out of state with their fingers in our pie.
Well, and as you use wolves, that's another great example. Hang tight, Jim. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. I'm talking to Jim Felgenauer, one of the founding fathers of Sturgeon for Tomorrow, sturgeonfortomorrow.org. Jim's an avid outdoorsman. He's an avid conservationist, and he's been involved in so many things. But the primary reason for having Jim on this week, the Michigan sturgeon fishing season is coming up just around the corner. Now, most people concentrate, they target those fish in the fall, but the opportunity is going to be there next week. So I want to talk to Jim about sturgeon fishing, the finer points of it. How do you do it? How big are those fish? What do you do with it when you catch them? How do you catch a 4-foot fish and release it without hurting the fish or the angler? A lot of things to talk about with Jim Felgenauer of Sturgeon for Tomorrow, sturgeonfortomorrow.org. That's sturgeonfortomorrow.org. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and my email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Now, when I have cleaned fish at Linwood Beach, they have a beautiful fish cleaning facility there. But it's one of those where you have to bag the carcasses and freeze them, and then they are disposed of. So that's in comparison to the fish cleaning station that Jim Felgenauer is working on and has raised so much money for. All right, so Jim, let's go back to sturgeon fishing in Michigan. I mean, boy, it wasn't that long ago that there really wasn't a sport fishery for sturgeon, was there?
No, Mike, after the population declined from 100 years ago, basically the fishing subsided. It wasn't worth going. There weren't enough fish in the system, right? So, and maybe that lack of fishing pressure is one of the things that has allowed the population to rebound, and we have a very fishable population down here in the St. Clair River. So, and again, the season opens up on the 16th. You can harvest the fish up until the 30th of September. That fish has to be between 42 and 50 inches, needs to be reported and registered, and you can only keep one per year. So the catch and release season continues on through, I think, March 15th of next year. So, it is a spawning closure between March 15th and July 16th. But we've got quite a long extended season. We've got a great opportunity here, and people should take advantage.
The fish has got to be at least 42 inches. That tells you just how big these fish get.
Oh, that's not even average is probably about 52 inches that we catch. And then we catch fish for over 70 inches and over 100 pounds.
That is crazy. And then when you consider that fish that you're catching that's that big, that's an old fish. That's probably been around longer than you or I have, huh?
Certainly possible. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They don't. They grow very quickly in the younger years, and then more slowly as they age. But you can figure about an inch a year. Would be probably after the first couple of years of growth. So you're 50 to 100 years old or more.
When you think about it from that perspective, and I realize fish don't have brains like humans, but when the things that they have seen, the changes they have seen in water quality, in water flow, in pollution, in commercial harvest after those fish, it's kind of impressive that we have the numbers now that we do.
Yes, they're perfectly adapted. They're like an old dinosaur. They're unchanged basically from 136 million years. So, they are able to withstand a lot of abuse, and they have. So, but also, one of those things is they're a very durable fish for handling. They do very, very well with catch and release. There's very little, if no hooking mortality. They rarely, if ever, swallow a hook. They handle well in the boat as long as you've got a couple of people there, and that would be one of my best advice, to have 2 or 3 people when you go out fishing. If you're going to handle a fish that's 80 or 100 pounds, it's more than a one-man job.
Well, for one thing, how do you net a fish that size?
We have nets that have big hoops and deep bags that you can get them in there. You need a deep bag on your net, and again, a couple of people. That works out well. But we, what you really need is you need a couple of guys. You need a lot of guys have the equipment already, but salmon fishes, musky fishes, high capacity reel, 50 to 65 pound test line, just a slip sinker rig, a big hook with a big gob of night crawlers, and you anchor up and fish that on the bottom. Now, our fishery, initially we started doing this at nighttime. We had our first ever daytime North Channel Sturgeon Classic last year, and our catch rates were actually higher during the day than they have been at night. So,
okay. You just got my attention with that, because I was thinking all along for this last several years that whether it was boat traffic or light level sensitivity or what, that this was a nighttime fishery, but your guys proved and gals proved that's not the case.
Right. So we are adapting and learning as we go. We didn't know how to do this when we started. We were just flying by the seat of our pants, and there's a lot of good charter captains out there. There's a very good cottage industry that way, and there's new electronics which guys are using. They're using side scan and that kind of thing to actually find pods of fish, and they're able to find them a little better and set up on top of them that way. And we are adapting to a changing environment here, and we're learning new things. So, very successful daytime fishery. A couple of things, a lot of boat traffic on this river, especially on weekends during the day, so it can get a little rough out there. But at night, the bugs, the mosquitoes,
Hang tight, Jim. I got to take a break. When we come back, though, I want to wrap up our conversation with you, Jim Felgenauer of Sturgeon for Tomorrow, sturgeonfortomorrow.org, about sturgeon fishing, the finer points of sturgeon fishing. I'm encouraged to find out you can catch these fish during the daytime. We'll find out more with Jim Felgenauer after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? It takes less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins has jackets specifically for that tactic as well. Check out the website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com, or go to amazon.com and look for VersaSkins brand. VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. And right now, the season we're about to be in is the Michigan sturgeon season. Jim Felgenauer is with Sturgeon for Tomorrow. Probably knows more about Michigan sturgeon than, anybody that I know. Jim, when you talk about these tactics for catching these big, giant, prehistoric fish, it sounds a lot like catfishing, just with heavier gear.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, I use a catfish rod. Was designed by cat fishermen for big blues and whites. But, and then let me hijack the direction here a little bit, because for anybody that's new to getting into sturgeon fishing, wants to come up and give this a try, we have coming up Monday evening at 6 o'clock up at Hook One in Marine City. Pete Pat
Salas's place, yeah.
Is sponsoring Finn Sport Fishing. Captain Anthony is putting on a sturgeon school up there at 6 o'clock Monday night. Sturgeon for Tomorrow is going to have some refreshments, and Captain Anthony is one of the best on the river. But I would consider Pete and Hook One as the sturgeon fishing headquarters here. You can get a hold of them anytime. Their business is always open. They're very knowledgeable. They have everything up there that you need for sturgeon fishing, and they can point you in the right direction and help you out. So there's a shameless plug for Pete and Hook One.
No, and I appreciate that. I think Pete's a great guy. And the niche that he has carved out there with that shop is really impressive. So I appreciate you saying that. So this daytime fishery is very interesting. But before the break, and I had to cut you off, you were talking about boat traffic and stuff. Why don't you follow up on that, Jim?
Yeah, it's on weekends. I typically don't go out on weekends. So if you can get out during the week, it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be a lot easier to get anchored up someplace. You're a lot more visible.
So you are anchored. Okay, so you are anchored. You're not drifting?
Oh, you are anchored.
Okay.
And just dropping back. If you're in slack water, shallow water on the edge of the channel, you can get away with about an ounce of weight for every 10 feet of depth. If you're in heavier current and deeper water, you might need a sinker up to as much as 12 ounces or more. So, but I do tend to anchor up out of the fairway. Nighttime fishing, if you're going to come up and do that, I will not go on the river at night without a spotlight and a way to warn boats off if they can't see you. And again, personally, having grown up on this river, I do try to stay out of the middle of the fairway if I can.
You say having grown up on this river, that to me just sounds really cool. It's a beautiful river. It's full of fish. And the fact that you basically grew up there, I think is wonderful.
Well, that's why I still live here, because it gets in your blood.
I bet. And now to add sturgeon to this whole mix, which was not really a factor when you were a kid growing up there, the opportunities that you and the group have formed now for future generations, Jim, that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's a legacy issue for me. I wanted to start something that's going to outlive me. So the Sturgeon for Tomorrow organization hopefully will do that. And also this fish cleaning station project is the same. I want to put something behind for other people, other sportsmen, that they can enjoy into the future when I'm pushing up daisies.
All right. So, what's your personal best sturgeon, or is that not even a factor to you?
Not even a factor. My proudest accomplishment is I have probably taken 100 people out and gotten them their first sturgeon. There was a lot of years where I just would go out and not even catch a fish. I'd take somebody else out and let them catch one, right?
I got to believe that when somebody hooks and lands their first fish, they become a sturgeon fisherman right at that point.
They do, and they learn a deep appreciation for the species. Now, the one thing that's on my bucket list, Mike, that I haven't accomplished, and hopefully it is on your bucket list, because that's the only way it's going to happen, is one of these days we got to get you tied into one of these dinosaurs.
Hey, we've been out there. We've done Wednesday Night Lives there. We just haven't hooked into a fish that I was able to land. So I'm all for that, Jim, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime to come up and fish with us.
All right, Jim, I appreciate that. Jim Felgenauer of Sturgeon for Tomorrow. SturgeonForTomorrow.org is the website, SturgeonForTomorrow.org. Think about this. This thing is a prehistoric fish. If you've never seen a sturgeon, if you don't know what they look like, Google it and look up what this fish looks like. I mean, it looks like a swimming dinosaur. But we have them right here in our state right now. We have them in the north, we have them in the south, we have them east, we have them west. I've never caught one, but I've seen a few, and they're pretty darn cool. SturgeonForTomorrow.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about getting ready for the fall archery season. Did I just say fall? I did. I'm sorry. Is it too early? I don't know. Hour 2 coming up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Heard on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan, and I do believe the best way to listen to this program, if you can, is on your local radio station. If you can't, say if your local AM or FM station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if, God forbid, you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, and there are a couple of spots, I'm not going to lie, there's a couple of spots where you can't hear the radio version of the show for reasons that I won't go into right now. It is nice to know that there's a backup plan available, and that is to listen to the podcast version of the show. Now, the podcast and the broadcast are the same content. Same thing. No editing, no changes, no nothing. And you can hear that podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, even on YouTube. I do like podcasting, though, and podcasting is ubiquitous. We hear it. It's all over the place these days, and podcasting has, in some ways, become... Oh, I think there's no doubt it's the fastest growing form of mass communication. I've been doing podcasts for a long time. In fact, each month I also do podcasts for, 3 of my advertising partners, including Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, and Offshore Tackle. And when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. So keep an ear out for that. Regardless, though, of how you hear my voice, when you hear my voice, whether it's a podcast, a broadcast, or whatever, I do thank you. I thank you so much. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do this. Without the support of some very wonderful and long-time advertising partners, I wouldn't be able to do it either, including Jay's Sporting Goods. Jay's my original advertising partner. When I had the chance to leave TV5, WNEM, and go out on my own, I went to Kathy Poet, the late Kathy Poet at Jay's, and I said, I have this opportunity, but I don't know. And she's the one who encouraged me. She said, you can do it, and we will help you. We will help support you in this venture. And Jay's has been a partner of mine for 35, 40 years, whatever it's been. So I have much loyalty to the folks at Jay's. Mark Copeland is the store manager of Jay's in Gaylord, but he's also a very avid archer, and he joins me now to talk about getting ready for the upcoming fall bow season. Mark, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. I've been great. I got to tell you, though, you touched on it. Kathy Poet, what a phenomenal force, a great person to have known, and she was one, personally, her impact on the mission of Jay's Sporting Goods and just the quality of the family that I get to work for now, 25 years here in Gaylord and working for this family. I couldn't have asked for a better company to work for, and actually a better community. Where else would you want to be, Mike, but northern Michigan? Waist deep in a river or 20 feet up in a tree.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
And the Gaylord store, the newer of the stores, Mark, are these carbon copies? Is the Gaylord store a carbon copy of Clair, or are there some differences? Not just in the layout, but in the product as well.
We try to get as close as we can with the products. That's part of the challenge when we went from 40,000 square feet at the first exit, now 100,000 square feet, an old Kmart building. We're able to do and show significantly more product here with an archery range at 20 yards where we can sight in your bow. And we've conceptually been able to do some different things, but it's amazing through the course of the years how both stores kind of go in this wave of we take the tips from them, they take the change from us. We really just grow and learn together. And so there's some subtle differences. Obviously, I'm partial to Gaylord. I think the crew is awesome and the community is awesome. But Mike, what's great is I don't get down to Clair very often because of technology. We Zoom our meetings now. And so when I go to Clair, oh my gosh, just the displays and the mounts and the collection. It's just exciting. And I will invariably I'll have product transferred from the Clair store to the Gaylord store, and my staff will say, "Well, why did you transfer this? We've had this here for 2 months." Well, you know, you don't see the forest through the trees sometimes, right?
And you mentioned the fact that you're in an old Kmart, and every time Jeff Poet is on with me, I bring this up. I say, Jeff, every town in Michigan that has an abandoned Kmart wants a Jay's Sporting Goods in that spot. So you kind of set yourself up with that one.
Yeah, we sure did. You know, I still get calls to this day from folks, towns around the place where the Kmart's empty, and it'd be a great place to put a Jay's. And in fact, when we were converting this store over from the old Kmart, my grandson, I would bring him in here, and we'd shoot bows and arrows. So if you're familiar with the store, I was shooting my recurve from the service desk now all the way down to the employee entrance doors. So, you know, we're pushing 65, well, I think 70 meters is what I was trying to get at with my Olympic recurve.
You mentioned recurve. The most enjoyable bow hunts, the most satisfying hunts I've ever had in my life are when I was hunting with a recurve. There is something pure and basic and instinctive and just wonderful about traditional gear.
Yeah, you're spot on there too. I was thinking about what to talk about, what's new and exciting in archery, and the first deer I killed was with my my longbow, a snowshoe longbow made from just a local guy up here by Wolverine. But the discipline that goes into it, you know, the early mornings, coffee in the front yard, shooting arrows maybe from my roof. I have 2 tree stands of varying heights in my yard, so I can shoot there. As the kids were growing up, we would take old stuffed animals like Dumbo, and I would hunt stuffed animals with the kids. But you got to do that, right? You got to do that to get good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that goes to my next point is, you know, I was thinking, is it too early to start thinking and even talking about this upcoming fall archery season? Not if you're a traditional archer. It's not too early at all.
No, not at all. I could put a dozen arrows downrange before my friends and their compound bows can push 2 arrows, because, you know, I this is, again, just me personally, Mike, but when I went from that to the compound bow, the compound for me was almost like an art of perfection. When you think about these guys shooting, and gals, shooting 3D targets or shooting spots, you know, they're going for near perfect scores. It's not like that with a traditional or a recurve. You really have to pay attention to your form and your body and just too many things to mention.
When I, a few years ago, walked away from my recurve, it was because I was not putting in the time that I needed to be proficient to the level I needed to, and to be comfortable and confident that I could make a good, quick, clean, humane killing shot as much as possible. And I said, look, if I'm not confident, say the last bow season I hunted, I had a big doe walk in front of me at the end of the season, and I didn't shoot her because I thought, I'm just not confident. So I said, if I'm not, I need to step away from this. I either need to up my game and get back into being serious about it, or move on to something else. And I went to the evil side. I went to the dark side, Mark. I went to a crossbow.
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't say that's the dark side. I'm sure there's folks, you know, it's such a crazy industry, and when you think about the purists and the traditionals to the compounds, which I believe compounds are now going to be an Olympic sport. Take it one step further. I have 2 tears in my right rotator cuff, and it's from an injury, but also from the years of coaching archery through NASP, archery in the schools, Center Shot Ministries, and shooting my bows at 70 pounds so many times. You just do damage in your shoulder. And so for me, the crossbow is a way for me to get out and hunt now with the grandkids. And you're right, you just don't have to put in the time to practice, because there's a new one out now. Raven's got the Raven LR for $2,500. It's out. It's got a really nice adjustable turret, Raven specific scope. but they're saying this thing is accurate out to 100 yards.
Oh, jeez.
And that, in my mind, in a hunting situation, I personally would never take that shot.
No.
But you just think about cutting edge and where they're going.
Yeah, I would shoot a target. I routinely do with my crossbow. Shoot targets at 60 yards just to make that 20-yard shot easier. Mark, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Mark Copeland, who is the manager of Jay's Sporting Goods Gaylord store. The website for both stores, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. And a quick follow-up to our first hour. I was talking with Jim Felgenauer of Sturgeon for Tomorrow. And the website that I was giving you would actually take you to the Black Lake website. If you want the St. Clair Sturgeon website, it is stclairsturgeon.org, stclairsturgeon.org. Again, for the St. Clair Sturgeon group, stclairsturgeon.org. So thank you, Jim, for reminding me of that. We'll take a break and come back with Mark Copeland of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold. WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in, let's go to Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Seaboing Harbor Marina. If you fish the east side of Saginaw Bay, I strongly recommend Seaboing Harbor Marina. Whether you're fishing my beloved skinny water or you're heading out deep, you can find a boat launch there, slips, fish cleaning station, a bait shop. Again, if you fish the east side of Saginaw Bay, I would strongly encourage you check out the Seaboing Harbor Marina. You can find them on Facebook, or the website is seaboingharbormarina.com. That's seaboingharbormarina.com. Right now, talking to Mark Copeland of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. And Mark, you should know, I'm just putting this out here, that both your Gaylord archery manager, Michael, and Kevin, the archery manager in Clair, both sicked me on you. They sent me your direction, so you've got those guys to thank or blame for this.
Oh, no, I love those guys. And any opportunity we have to talk with you, Mike, is a good time.
No, I appreciate you saying that. So let's talk about getting ready for the upcoming fall archery season. We've established if you are a traditional shooter, man, you should be shooting now. The recurve guys and the compound guys, it's always a good idea to shoot year-round, though, isn't it?
It is, actually. And, for us, we would love to see some guys and gals come in January and February and start thinking about new strings. Those new strings are going to stretch, right? You want to do a tune and lube. You want to make sure everything is dialed in after you've hunted hard for the season. Why would you just put it in a case and leave it for 6 months is beyond me. But life gets busy, So you just got to take some time to do some basic maintenance. You think about your tires on your car, you got to rotate them, right? Well, your string's only going to take so many shots. And if you shoot like I do every other year, at least you should probably be changing out your strings. And working on your form.
Well, and let's go back to equipment maintenance here for a second. A couple of years ago, I bought a very nice 10-point crossbow from the guys at Jay's in Clair. And they told me, they said, look, this is, there's a lot of energy here. There's a lot of forces at work here. So make sure you come in and get this thing checked. And I've actually found out, Mark, that I need to be in there, if not at least once a year, maybe even twice a year, to have the guys go over this thing, cables, strings, and such. There is a lot of maintenance on these modern day high tech crossbows in particular.
Yeah, there is. I mean, and when you think about some of the money that you're spending on some of this new tackle now, in excess of $1,000 to $2,000, you want this piece of equipment to last you for a long time and perform optimally. And you just have to take care of it. I'll defer to Michael here for some basic things back in the shop. What do you recommend, Michael?
Michael didn't want to talk with me. I don't want to talk with Michael. Michael didn't want to talk with me. I'm talking to you, Mark Copeland. Michael's out of this whole thing. So forget about Michael. Michael does not exist right now.
Okay.
I don't mean to be rude, but
no, I love it.
If I come in now, Michael's going to shoot daggers at me. Either guy, I don't care. But let's talk about cost. You mentioned cost. Hey, listen, I know Jay's doesn't set the cost of these things. The cost is set by the manufacturer. But when we're looking at new bows in excess, maybe much more than $1,000, are we pricing the average archer out of the sport these days, the average bow hunter out of the sport these days?
I think to a degree, there's people that want the best of the best, and so you cater to that need. You can certainly do everything that you want to do in the field with something that's not, the top line of MSRP on there. But anymore, most of the bow companies, you're going to get the performance out of them to do what you want to do without breaking the bank. But the more you pay, the more features and options you have.
Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, when I interview him, he's had a very interesting suggestion. He says, don't go, if you're trying to save a few bucks, and aren't we all, don't necessarily go for the newest model for the year. Go back a year or go back 2 years, because that bow still has wonderful technology. But since it's 2 years old, and that's actually what I did with my 10-point, you're going to save a few bucks on it.
Yeah, usually that's the case. They do change quite frequently, though. They don't usually keep them in their line for more than about 2 seasons, and they're always trying to up their game, either a new added feature or more speed, lighter bow. But yeah, definitely you can save money on a previous model year, whether it be compound or crossbow.
It used to be years ago, boy, I got to have a fast bow. We're looking for speed, speed, speed. And those speed bows from several years ago were pretty, there was a lot of hand shock, and they were not real fun to shoot. And then the industry moved towards comfort and ease of shooting. Where are we at these days? Are we going back to speed, or are we staying with comfort?
It's kind of a mixed bag. They've kind of come to a sweet spot where it's not the high end of the speed, but they're going for the comfort, for adjustability, and to be able to have that let off and that feel that when you're at full draw, you're able to relax and not have that jerk forward on your shoulder and cause those injuries, as Mark said, over the years.
When you talk about adjustability, are you saying adjustment for your draw length, or is it something more?
In the last 2 to 3 years, there have been a lot more advancements to where the typical consumer can make adjustments to their bow now when they want to paper tune it to get it ready for season versus having to have a bow press to do it. There's a lot of companies now that have features on their bows that you can actually make the adjustments yourself.
Well, that's good news for us as bow hunters, but not so good news for you techs at Jay's.
No, Mike, Mark again here, not necessarily. I think one of the things that breaks my heart more than anything is when you see someone who's just picked up a bow at a garage sale and they're trying to save a little bit of money because, maybe it's a single mom or dad and they're trying to get their kid into the sport, and they find this great deal on an old bow that just doesn't fit them. You can't adjust the draw length. You can't adjust the draw weight. And in some cases, for $500, we can get them into an entire package bow that'll be the first and last bow that parent will ever have to buy for them because it's so adjustable. And I think that's where the industry has probably changed the most in the last 20 years. I was looking at new bows every other year because your cams change, speed. You talked about speed. I got to spend some time with a great coach. Chapman was his name, and he said, you just miss quicker the faster your arrow goes.
I like that.
You just miss quicker.
Getting kids involved, though, I love the fact that most of today's bow companies do offer these bows for younger shooters that have that adjustability. So now I know what you were talking about. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it makes it, again, without a bow press, and that's what limits a lot of, the garage folks that want to work on their equipment. That bow press back in the days, you needed to relax 70-pound bows to do any work. And to Michael's point, once a bow's been out of a product line for 2 or 3 years, those parts begin to get scarce and they're not available anymore. So those if you would, that vehicle once driven off the lot loses a tremendous amount of value and flexibility.
Mark, you bring up an interesting point too. You mentioned 70 pounds. It used to be, again, back in the day, that if you wanted to prove you were a man and a tough guy, you would shoot 70 pounds. But doggone it, the last time I was shooting a compound, I was shooting 55 pounds, and I think I was getting the performance of that 70-pound bow from just a few years earlier. We don't need to shoot 70. I mean, if we want to, fine, but you don't need to shoot 70 pounds anymore, do you?
No, you really don't. And what I love working with customers is pick a couple of bows. Instead of shooting the bow that your buddy has, or instead of shooting the one that you see in the TV show, shoot a couple of them in the range here with your eyes closed and just focus on the feel. Don't focus on where the arrow goes. How does everything feel mechanically within your body? Because if that's working and you're comfortable, you're going to shoot more frequently and you're going to be more successful.
But, Mark, if you don't shoot the same bow Lee and Tiffany shoot, you can't be a successful bow hunter.
Well, I suppose
that may be that may have been some of my personal bias coming through. I apologize. But Mark, hey, listen, marketing is a factor these days, right? Because I know for a fact, because I've talked to your guys, the people will walk in the store and say, I want this bow, because they've seen the marketing of this bow. You've got to deal with that.
We do deal with that quite a bit. But we do the best we can. We can't carry every bow manufacturer that's out there, but we try to carry the best of the best. Some great entry-level stuff. I mean, you mentioned your 10-point crossbow. We've sold 10-point for a long time since the crossbow became legal. And the Wicked Ridge is made by 10-point. It's a great entry-level crossbow that functions the same. It just doesn't have as many of the bells and whistles that the $2,500 Raven might have. I love my carbon Hoyt back from the old day, but, they get old and tired after a while, right? So you want to get something shiny and flashy.
Well, yes, we're all guilty of that. And thank goodness, because that's what keeps Jays in business.
Right on, right on.
Mark, always a pleasure. Michael, I appreciate you standing by there in the wings. But, guys, I have much support and much respect for the folks at Jays. I would encourage people, just like you say, Mark, don't wait till the last minute. I know it's fishing season now. It's summertime fishing season, but the bow season's coming up. It's time to get the bow out, start shooting it, get the rust off the equipment, get the rust off your shoulders, get things dialed in. And if there's going to be a problem, then there's time to get to Jays or, the other shops, but I recommend Jays. There's time to get there, get your gear work done, and get it back in time where you're not jammed up till the end of the season. So I appreciate talking with you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate talking with you, Mike. Thanks for everything you do. And remember, get outside and take somebody with you.
There you go. jsportinggoods.com is the website, jsportinggoods.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Adam Bump from the DNR. I have Adam on for 2 segments. The first one, talking about a survey or a study they're doing with turkey poults. What are the numbers of birds? I think it's down here in Michigan. And then he's going to stick around for a very interesting Ask Avery question. Then coming up in hour number 3, Captain Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. That's all coming up yet here this week on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, let's go to the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. Earlier, I talked about the east side of Saginaw Bay and Sebring. Now, the west side of the bay, Linwood Beach, I'm telling you, beautiful people, beautiful facilities, great location. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach Marina. They helped me get the new angler crest on the water as well, so thank you folks for that. I do appreciate it. Year-round fishing, spring, summer, winter, fall. If you have problems with your boat, Linwood Beach can help you out there. A full-service marine shop. Just a lot of activity. I've spent a lot of time around Linwood Beach here the last couple of weeks, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. I want to turn our attention now to Adam Bump, a wildlife biologist with the Michigan DNR. Adam, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Remind me, the Upland Game Bird Specialist, is that your title now?
Yep, that's my title. I know it's changed a lot over the years, but yep, Upland Game Birds now.
That's the hat you're wearing these days, and that's the one we're going to go with for now. So, turkey poults, what's going on?
Well, Michigan is asking for anyone that sees turkeys to report on hens and poults. So it's the baby turkeys. This is the time of year they're out and about and pretty active, and that survey can help us track productivity. So give us an idea of how turkeys are doing, how many are getting produced each year, and helps us with management.
My sense is, anecdotally, that turkey numbers are down significantly, at least in some parts of the state. Does your data, does your research show that?
The information that we have is showing that they're probably stable across the state. But I do hear concerns or questions, just like you mentioned, in certain areas of the state. There could be declines, and we're not seeing that statewide. So it's really hard for us to be able to say what's happening in localized areas. But the data that we've been looking at over the last several decades is suggesting we've stopped increasing, but overall across the whole state, we think we have a pretty stable population.
Is it stable? Is it a good, healthy population? Are you happy with the numbers that we have out there?
Yeah, I mean, if we use hunting statistics to kind of evaluate that question, we have some of the highest success rates we've ever had. We're getting close to 50% of hunters. I think it's around 45, 46% of hunters are taking a turkey each year. Satisfaction rates are really high. So our hunting statistics suggest that it's a pretty good number of turkeys to have out there. We're starting to get more increases in suburban and urban nuisance complaints, which some of that's just a few birds behaving badly. But sometimes when you see upticks in nuisance complaints, they could say, well, you might be near the top of where you want to be with populations. So if we're sandwiched between a few nuisance complaints and really high success and satisfaction with turkey hunters, I think we're pretty close to where we want to be.
Going back to the turkey poults, why do we see such a range in the size of the young birds this time of year?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is because most turkeys are going to start nesting or laying eggs in late April, and they'll be nesting through May. But you can have hens that either start a little early, start a little late, or when you see those really big differences where you got some really little poults and some bigger poults, it's usually two broods that are combined, and one of them is a re-nesting attempt. So a hen tried to nest, something happened, maybe a raccoon got her eggs or something, and she started again. So those poults are almost a full month, sometimes younger than some of the other poults. So that's the main reason you're seeing that.
How many times will a hen try if something wrecks her brood? How many times will she come back and try it again?
I think it really probably depends on the hen. So some hens might not do it at all, and others might just keep trying until it gets too late and they just can't do it anymore. So I don't think you would get them much more than a couple re-nesting attempts in most years.
And how do we report if we see poults? What's the process?
So you can go to the DNR website, and probably the easiest thing to do is just use the search bar and say Turkey Brood Survey. And then there's a link there, and I ask you a couple questions just about how many you saw and the general area where you were. And that's really about it. So you can complete those surveys anytime that you see some turkeys. And the survey's open July 1 through August 31st. So you can report anytime during that time frame.
And the more information, the more data you get, the better. Now, real quick before I let you go for this segment, you don't want people reporting a second time. Say, if you saw that brood once and reported it, and it comes back the next day and you're pretty confident it's the same group, you wouldn't want to report it again, would you?
Right. You don't have to report it again if you're confident it is, but there is a piece of the survey that says, do you think you already saw these birds and reported them once? So if you feel like reporting it, you can, and check that box, but you do not have to report it if you're pretty confident it's the same bird over and over.
All right, Adam, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with DNR Upland Game Bird Specialist Adam Bump. The website, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. When we come back, Adam has graciously agreed to stick around for the Ask Avery question this week, and I think it's kind of an interesting one. It's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Also, a big thank you to the Security Credit Union Foundation for stepping up to become the major sponsor of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. If you would like to be a part of that, mucc.org/golf, and that is to raise funds to help support the MUCC Youth Camp. Okay, the way the Ask Avery question works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. The best way to do this is to send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. This is what Bruce did. He said, Mike, Ducks Unlimited and RMEF, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, both very successful programs, use their resources to focus on habitat. But the money from our pheasant stamp is used to plant male pheasants that are often shot off the same day they're planted. He says, is the planting of male pheasants in accordance with Proposal G, sound scientific wildlife management practices, or would the money from the pheasant stamp be better used to obtain and improve habitat to build a long-term pheasant population? And this is from Bruce. So I'm directing this question to Adam Bump, who is the Upland Game Bird Specialist for the DNR. Adam, I sent you this question ahead of time, so you wouldn't be surprised by it. So what's your answer to Bruce? How do you address that question?
I think it's a great question. It's a complicated topic, probably a little hard to understand sometimes. I think there are some good examples there of organizations that spend a lot of money on habitat. Michigan has a pheasant organization, Pheasants Forever, that does the same thing, that really focuses on habitat and getting pheasants produced naturally out in the wild and having wild sustainable pheasants. So we do have a corollary there in the pheasant world here in Michigan where organizations' dollars are going towards habitat. The DNR also contributes and partners with Pheasants Forever on a lot of projects, and we work together with a coalition called the Michigan Grassland Coalition to try to get a lot of grasslands done. A lot of the federal programs, Conservation Reserve Program, those types of things work to get habitat done on the ground. So that kind of habitat work is happening in Michigan for pheasants. Now, the pheasant public land pheasant license was created by statute, and it was designed to create a hunting opportunity, not to try to increase or sustain pheasant populations through releases. And we know through many, many years of studies and other states' attempts and even our own attempts that with the current landscape that Michigan has, doing releases of pheasants does not result in increased populations. So the reason only males are released in Michigan is because we're trying to use as much of that money as possible to produce birds specifically for put and take hunting opportunities. And so that money can't be used for habitat. It can only be used for that program. And the intent is that as many of those go out into the field and into hunters' bags as possible to maximize those recreational opportunities and the best benefits for the money that's generated by that license. So there's kind of two separate goals there: maintaining habitat for wild populations and creating some of these opportunities where it looks more like the pheasant hunting of the 60s or 70s or that we used to have in those areas where we're doing releases.
So where do we get the biggest bang for our buck, no pun intended, in the long-term habitat projects or short-term putting birds out there for hunters to take?
I think it's kind of two sides of the same coin. So in Michigan, there is the likelihood that you could get back to the heyday of pheasants, which would have been in the 1950s, where we had 1 million people out participating in pheasant hunting and we were shooting tons of birds, is not possible with the landscape that we have. So spending time working on grasslands, Pheasants Forever has started hiring regenerative agriculture staff, and so has the Department of Agriculture in the state, where changing the way agriculture is done could potentially help benefit pheasants. But you're going to have patches where you have good wild pheasant populations through all of that work, and other areas where you're just not going to be able to sustain that population. So providing some of these opportunities where you're using the put and take system, giving people that opportunity where they know they can go there and experience pheasant hunting, I think helps kind of give us the best of both worlds. So I think the two things work well together.
Adam Bump, I appreciate your time. Thanks for sticking around for that second segment to help us out. Website for the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Thank you, Bruce, for asking that question. A very good question, very interesting question. And, of course, thank you again to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible and for stepping up to become major sponsors of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, Captain Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. He's been fishing walleye on Saginaw Bay all summer. Now he's jumping over to Lake Michigan to target the silverfish. What is that transition like from a mindset, from a schedule, from an equipment perspective? We'll find out about that and more. Wild Game Chef, by the way, Dixie Dave Minar has an interesting sheephead recipe coming up in hour number 3 as well.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. I do certainly appreciate it. Appreciate you being along with me on this third hour of the show as well. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show on more than 30 stations across our great state of Michigan. And, I do appreciate you continuing to be along with me. People say, how do you come up with topics to talk about each week for 3 hours? And it's really, here in our state, it's very easy because we have so much going on. Just follow the seasons, follow the people, and follow the critters. And that's what I've kind of made a living out of doing. And I tell you what, my job becomes a lot easier as I tap into my network of outdoor experts across the state. I've always said this, I don't pretend to be an expert in anything. In fact, I'm not even very good in a lot of things, but I know people who are very good and who are experts. Talking right now about Bobby Sullivan. Bobby Sullivan, a charter captain of Icebreaker Charters. His website, icebreakerfishingcharters.com, icebreakerfishingcharters.com. Bobby chases fish and critters year-round. He's a walleye guy. He's a salmon guy. He's a steelhead guy. He's a duck hunting guy. And right now, he's getting ready to make the transition from spending the early part of the summer chasing Saginaw Bay walleye out of Linwood Beach Marina. He's just getting ready to pull things up and head over to the west side of the state and start chasing the silverfish, the big fish, the kings, the trout over there. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about this. Bobby, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Mike?
I'm doing good. Listen, last time we ran into each other, it was at the fish cleaning station at Linwood Beach Marina. You had just come off the water. We were cleaning some fish we'd caught with Brad Dupuis. How did your walleye season go?
This year was very good. We still have great fishing right now, and I'm actually kind of sad to leave it to go to the west side, but I'm excited to go chase some salmon. We never really had a slow stretch this year. From my first trip in the water, I think we had 48 that day in 5 pike, and yesterday we still ended up, I had 3 people, and we got 24. It took us almost the whole trip to get them yesterday, but fishing is still great right now.
Bobby, help me out. As you know, I just got the new Angler Quest, so I'm getting an extraordinarily late start on my season. I'm a skinny water guy. When I get up in there and the fish are in there, I feel very confident. When I have to go out deeper, it's out of my comfort level. How do I target these deeper water walleye?
The one good thing that's about the bay is you can do it just about any way you can think of. We run a lot of weighted steel. 40, 60, 80 foot of weighted steel, which we run it like you would a lead core for people that's familiar with lead core. The line is helping the bait, the lure, whether it's a spoon or a flicker shad, flicker minnow, a crankbait style lure, get down. If you don't want to invest into all of having a bunch of different rods with different weighted line on it, we also run jet diver 30s that help us get spoons down. You can run those anywhere from 50 to 80 foot back, depending on the water depth. Or you can run snap weights ahead of your flicker minnows or flicker shads. It's all effective. You just got to kind of pick one program and start to master it.
All right, so let me ask you this. Yesterday I was out. I made it out as far as 25 feet of water, which for me might as well be 1,000 feet of water. I was marking a ton of fish laying on the bottom, and there were a fair number of suspended fish too. Which of those fish do I target?
I would try to target those suspended fish because those are going to be more of the active fish. The last 2 days that we've been out are 40-foot steel rods, which that should get you down 8 to 10 foot, depending on what you're pulling on it, maybe 12 at the deepest. Those have been our better rods in that deeper water. You know, it's unconventional of what most people might think would be the right rods, but, you know, those are your more active fish up higher in the water column.
All right. Well, I'm heading out again tomorrow, so I will give that a try. So when you make the jump over from Saginaw Bay to Lake Michigan, but there's got to be a lot involved in that.
There is. It is pulling the boat, putting it on the trailer. It's removing and organizing all the walleye tackle that is thrown around the boat right now, removing all the rods off it, gathering all my salmon equipment that I have in my pole barn, bringing it back up to the boat, putting it all on there. It typically takes me about a day or two. You got to check tires on the trailer, re-grease the bearings, It's a full 2-day project, and I have to pull the boat over to the west side, but something we have to do.
I have never trailered a boat of that size. You got almost a 30-foot big glass boat. Can you do that on normal roads during normal hours, or is that big enough you got to take a special route at special times?
You have to take a special route at a special time. You have to get on the Michigan web page and from MDOT and pull a wide load permit. Most of the time I can go the route that I want to. Every once in a while there's some construction where you have to get rerouted around it. And I mean, it could take from Linwood to Ludington we can only pull it like 55 mile an hour. It depends on the year. They change that requirement every once in a while. That's about a 3-hour trip for me, and I've had sometimes with the route take about 5 hours, if I have to get routed up through Manistee. So I have not pulled my permit yet. That's on the list of things to do. So we'll see where they send me this year.
So you're out of Ludington. I was thinking you were fishing Manistee.
Nope, I'm out of Ludington. Yep.
Why that port?
I've always fished there ever since I was a little kid. I'm real comfortable there. I know a lot of people in town, and we always have good fishing, whether it's up at Big Sable Point. We can run down a little Sable Point, or we can go offshore. It always seems like there are fish to catch in the Ludington area when I'm over there.
You mentioned comfort. Comfort and confidence play a huge role in fishing, don't they?
Oh, yes. Yeah. If you have all the confidence in the world, you're going to make something happen. For example, yesterday on my trip walleye fishing, we had 4 fish like the first 2 hours. And you could tell my customers were getting a little edgy, they were starting to question it, but I told them, I was like, we're going to find them. It's just, they moved on us overnight. We're going to get them. And at the end of the trip, he's like, now I see why you're so confident on it. So if you're confident in your program, you're going to make something happen.
All right. So help me out here. 4 fish in the first couple hours of the trip. What changed, and how did you figure out what changed?
Well, we had that hard northeast night before last. We're recording this on Wednesday, so we're talking about on Tuesday. We had a hard northeast in the morning, and every once in a while, we always say out of Ludington, if we get a southwest wind for a few days, that's going to pull those fish in shallow by State Park. Something you can almost always depend on. A couple days of a hard southwest wind, no matter, the time of year in summer. They'll get those fish skinny, but if you get that northeast wind, those fish might still be there, but it seems to shut those fish down. And we normally try to go out deeper, like what you were talking about earlier, and that's what we've been fishing, is a little bit deeper. Those fish moved about a mile or 2 on us, and I was thinking those fish were going to turn on, but they never did. And one good thing about us Linwood charter captains, there's 22 of us in the marina that have boat slips, and we're all good friends, and we all talk every day when we're on the water. And one guy gets on the fish, shares the information, they might be a mile or 2 over, and once we get on them, it doesn't take us long to fill up a box of nice walleyes.
Are salmon and trout, are they as squirrely as walleye? Because walleye, they'll turn off and on, like the snap of a finger, or the wind direction changes, or they move, they come up, they come down.
Yep.
Are steelhead are salmon like that too?
They can be. So they're more like water temperature driven. We will catch fish out of water temp. It happens all the time, happens every day when I'm fishing, but for the most part, they want to be around that bait fish, and that bait fish is driven in a certain water temperature, whether it's, 50, 55 degree water, depending on, where that bait's at. If you get a wind overnight, if, say, everything's down around that 60 to 80 foot range in the water column, you get a hard northeast or east wind, and it brings that water temperature up, it could move those fish overnight on you. And you just have to be prepared for that, knowing the wind on each direction, what it does to the water out of each direction.
Gotcha. Hang tight, Bobby. We got to take a break here. We're talking to Captain Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. His website is icebreakerfishingcharters.com, icebreakerfishingcharters.com. Bobby's just wrapping up a very successful early part of the summer on Saginaw Bay for walleye. He's heading over to Lake Michigan out of Ludington to fish for silverfish. But when we come back after the break, we'll talk more about this transition and the difference in gear, the difference in schedules. I don't think you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch Saginaw Bay walleye. Thank goodness. More coming up with Bobby Sullivan after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington, News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the company that made that sound right there. You know that sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just took it out of my pocket. I carry it with me all the time. I'm a big fan of Rapid River knives, handmade knives by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Lifetime guarantee. Use the promo code AVERY15 to get 15% off. That's both in store in the showroom on Rapid River on US 2 just east of Rapid River, or the website rapidriverknifeworks.com. Promo code AVERY15, get 15% off, and we being me and Chris Durson, actually Chris and his guys are doing all the work. Coming up with this Mike Avery signature knife with proceeds to benefit the outdoor-driven group that gets first responders and vets in the outdoors. I'm really getting behind this, and I appreciate Chris's patience and persistence in getting this knife just right. So thank you, Chris. It's going to be available very soon. You know we'll have details on that. In the meantime, the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Right now, I'm talking with Captain Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. His website, icebreakerfishingcharters.com. Bobby's headed over to Lake Michigan, where once again one of his clients will set a new state record on king salmon. Eh, Bobby?
Oh, we'll see. It can always happen.
What's it been, 3 years now? 4 years since you had a client set that new record?
4 years. 4 years. I was in 21.
And how big was that fish?
Whoops.
How big was that fish, Bobby?
That was 47.86 pounds.
Oh, come on. 47 pounds, almost a 50-pound salmon?
Yeah, almost 50.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I never thought that we would see a new Michigan king salmon. I thought, yeah, we might see a new walleye record, a new catfish record, but I never thought a record on Chinook. And you guys got him.
We did. Yeah, we did. That was a once in a lifetime experience. It was awesome.
Did that change your business, Bobby? I mean, because it got your name out there in front of so many people. That had to be a shot in the arm.
Yeah, it did. It got my name out there in front of a lot of people, but I still have every once in a while I'll get somebody new, but I have a really good repeat client base that I've always had. So that's a bulk of my customers, and every once in a while I do get somebody to call, hey, you're the guy that caught that big fish. Yep. Don't expect it, but, we'll get you on some fish. So.
Well, and that was my question. Does it somehow set you up because people who don't know you and are not used to fishing Lake Michigan, they think, well, if this guy did this once, we're going to get a boatload of 40-pound fish.
Yeah, I've had a couple calls like that, but I tell everyone, that was wouldn't call it a fluke, but it not every day you're going to catch fish like that. Last year the biggest king we caught on our boat was 27. There wasn't that many fish around 30 pounds last year, but there was a lot of fish last year. We did have a couple tough days of fishing, but for the most part we were filling coolers of fish. It was hopefully this year is just as good, or at least half as good as it was last year.
When I hear those numbers from last season, it makes me think, man, that state record fish you guys caught 4 years ago, this thing could stand for a while again.
Yeah, with the numbers of fish we have right now, the size is down on them, but it's great to see this phenomenal fishing we had last year. And it looks like this spring they had good fishing, and down in St. Joe, they're still catching a lot of kings down there. It looks like the Ludington, Manistee area, they're going through spurts where they have good fishing right now. Then there's some tough days, but that's going to pick up. That's why I come over middle of July. That's when fishing starts to get really consistent in that area.
So how is your salmon gear and your tactics? How is that different from chasing walleye earlier in the season?
It's all different gear, different rods, different reels, different lures, different line. About the only thing that's consistent is I do run that weighted steel, the torpedo weighted steel, on some of my salmon rods, and I run it on some of my walleye rods. But other than that, it's all different gear. I have a lot of fishing rods at home.
Yeah, I bet you do. And when I look at back in the day, as they say, salmon fishing, man, you had downriggers. And then if you were really adventurous, you used a dip sea or a slide diver. These days, I don't even think you run many riggers, do you?
So I run three. I run three downriggers. I run right off the back of the boat that we call a shoot rigger, and I run two out downs. A typical spread for salmon fishing is, if I have enough people on the boat, I'll run three downriggers. On those downriggers, it varies on the tackle, whether it's a flasher fly or a spoon or a J-plug. I'll run a free slider or a fixed slider on each downrigger as long as I don't have a big flasher fly on the shoot rigger. If I do, I don't run a slider on that. It just causes too many tangles. When you get a fish on the slider, it just wraps up in that flasher. So I keep from running it on that. So I'll run the three downriggers. I'll run two dipsy divers aside, a low diver and a high diver is what we call it. I'll run a Magnum diver on the low diver set on 1. Then my high diver I'll have on 2.5 or 3, and that's a medium-sized diver. Then I'll run 3 board rods aside if the traffic allows, and that can be anywhere from a 3-color lead core to a 450-foot copper.
And what boards are you running? The mini boards like the offshores or big skis?
I'm running bigger boards. I'm running the big Dreamweaver boards is what I run on my boat.
Okay. Why? What's the thinking there, Bobby? Why the big boards as opposed to the small ones?
If I'm running a short lead core, like a 3 or a 5 color, I will run a smaller board, like a offshore walleye sized board.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start pulling that bigger copper or 100-foot copper, 100-foot steel, all the way to a 450, they ride a lot better on the bigger boards. So they'll get out to the side of the boat more instead of dragging back. And that just helps you with tangles and, keeping from getting tangles.
Okay, if you run a full spread, you're ready to rock and you got a bunch of people on board and you can put out everything you want. How many rods you can run?
So let me do the math real quick. 6 board rods, 4 divers. So that's 10, probably 13 rods. So not as many as I would on a walleye charter.
Well,
there is times when I can run more than that, but sometimes less is more salmon fishing.
That's what I'm
10,
thinking because
rods.
you got a walleye that even a big fish pops to the surface and you ski him across the top. That's one thing. So you can run a whole bunch of rods. But if you got a fish that might fight you for a while and be out there for a few minutes and do circles, you can't run as many rods. I get that.
Yep. Sometimes when we're, we call it pierhead bashing, that last week of August, it can be any time when the water's right. I've fished the pierheads in July with a lot of people. We might only be running the 3 downriggers, a couple divers, and maybe a board out each side if we can. So we might only have 6-8 rods in the water doing that.
And that fishing, that type of combat fishing, is interesting because it allows the small boat angler access to those big fish. But what are the ethics and the social factors in fishing that close? I mean, is there a given pattern that you should be running? I know if you get somebody who doesn't run the same way as everybody else, it causes just chaos.
Yeah, most of us try to, and every day can be different, but we try to run north and south along the pier heads. That way everyone kind of gets a crack at that channel, and most people can right out front. Once you start running like east-west there, that really kind of messes up with the boats and the flow of everything. So, we try to circle it, and you're not always going to get the perfect pass through there every time. So, you got to realize that you got to, not always be that guy pushing for the best thing. And I mean, sometimes our better fishing at the pier heads is, it might be a mile south or a mile north. That water, there might be some dirty water in there that's holding some bait fish. And so you just got to kind of keep an eye out for that.
A lot more fun just to be out in the middle of nowhere by yourself.
It is, but it is fun in the chaos. That's some of my favorite fishing of the year, and you can really put a box full of big kings together right there at the harbor. And it's great for anybody with a 14 or 16-foot boat on the right day. They can do, just as good as we do.
You looking forward to tying into some fish that are going to fight you back?
Oh, I am. I've been looking forward to it for a couple weeks now, so I'm excited. I got one last trip this afternoon. I'm gonna do a little fun fishing the next 2 days. Then we have a memorial tournament for my father on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
So we've done that the last I think this is the 10th year we're doing that out of Linwood. So I'm gonna fish that, then I'm gonna pull my boat on Sunday and get ready to go.
Nice. Actually, I'm going to be out the next couple of days too, Bobby. I'm now that I know you're going to be out there, you might be getting a text from me.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me a call. Hopefully, we can start fishing. Looking at the wind, I think that skinny water might get good again for you. So hopefully, it's a lot shorter run for us.
I like that, Bobby Sullivan. Good luck to you as you make the jump over to Lake Michigan. If you want to book a trip with Bobby, he's pretty well booked up, but he's got a few openings. Go to the website, icebreakerfishingcharters.com. That's icebreakerfishingcharters.com, and maybe you can be fishing with the guy whose client caught the state record king salmon. Bobby, good fishing to you, and I'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mike.
Always a pleasure. Captain Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters, icebreakerfishingcharters.com. Walleye, salmon, steelhead in the rivers, Saginaw Bay duck hunting. The guy is he's an outdoor enthusiast of the highest level. icebreakerfishingcharters.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a few more thoughts before we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And I know he has a sheephead recipe this week. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. Just down the coast in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. And on the other side of the state in Saginaw, WSGW AM and FM 790 AM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. And I tell you what, every week I get a little stronger hold on calling this the Outdoor Magazine Studio. Not for the whole week, right? Because there's a lot of other things that go on in here. In fact, Jonathan Dent tries to sneak in here once in a while and do his own thing too, and I just think that is so very, very rude. Because right now, Charlie Rood and I are in here. Charlie, look out the window. Yep, see, there they are. The crowds of people, and they're getting ready. The excitement. It's like a carnival here every other Wednesday when Charlie's in the studio with me. Mothers bring their kids here. And in their station wagons, and they open the back door of the station wagon, and there's some minivans too, right? And the kids are like, they got popsicles, and their moms are reading books to them as they patiently wait for Charlie to get out of the studio. And then he does. And then you get this glimpse of Charlie driving by in his truck. And the kids are going, Charlie, Charlie. And the moms are crying. There are tears of joy and adoration coming down their cheeks because they are just so glad to see Charlie Root. As we all are. Pretty thick this week, Charlie. He's rolling up his pant legs. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. Or, big project, small project, maintenance, tree trimming. Which, by the way, it's time to trim those trees there, guys. I know they'll be over there any day, and they'll do a great job, as they do every time. Every time I have had a Reader crew at our house, and there have been a bunch of them, they have done a wonderful job. They are very conscientious. They want to do the work the way that you, as the homeowner, want it done, and I appreciate that. And you know what? They wouldn't be in business 60 years if they didn't have that attitude. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Okay, a few more things coming up here before Dixie Dave has a sheephead recipe for us. Yep, you heard me right, a sheephead recipe. Okay, cicadas. Have you heard of cicada buzz yet? If so, please send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's one of these things that I kind of keep track of that really has no big bearing on anything except that I find it interesting, and every year I kind of keep track of when the first cicada buzzes, and then I keep track of when the first frost is. And the reason I do that is the old saying is it'll be 6 weeks from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost. Well, that's not true. It's not 6 weeks. It's not 8 weeks. It's actually closer to 10 weeks. But if the cicada buzz early, will we get an earlier frost? I don't know. It's kind of fun. I keep track of it. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The golf outing is coming up fast. Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club. I talked with Steve Wyndham of MUCC just yesterday about this. Steve is the guy doing all the heavy lifting on this event, and I appreciate it, Steve, so very much. And we're looking at numbers. We are not quite full, meaning we are not quite maxed out yet on the number of golfers. We still have room for you and would love to see you there. And the reason Steve is working on this, Steve, an MUCC staffer, is because the funds raised from this event will go to the MUCC Youth Camp. I'm not making a dime on this. I don't want to make a dime on this. MUCC proper is not making any money on this. It is all going to the MUCC Youth Camp to get kids involved in the outdoors. We have openings for golfers. Go to mucc.org/golf to sign up. We have an unlimited number of openings for sponsors. And by sponsors, that means you could donate a few bucks to the cause, or if you have a good or services or a product you want to give to us, donate to us that we can put in the auction to raffle off to make more money. The place to do it, mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. Really looking forward to this year's event. My time is running out to get my golf game dialed in. And because I have the new Angler Quest, most of the next 2 weeks will be spent fishing. So it's like, I'm finally fishing, yet I need to play golf. Things are really rough, aren't they? I'm really sorry about that. I realized when I said that, it's like, that's not going to come across very well. Hey, I got to get things done. I got to do what I got to do. Also, the Rapid River knife, the Mike Avery signature edition of the Rapid River Uper folding knife, which will be the first in the series, I suspect. Chris Durson and I, Chris, the owner of Rapid River, have been going back and forth. He has sent me a couple of versions of the knife. They are beautiful, but they're not quite what we're looking for. I really want this knife to be something special. Chris is being very, very patient in dealing with me on this, and he wants things to be right as well. So keep an ear out for that. Believe me, it will not be a surprise when this knife is available for pre-order. You will hear about it. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. If you want to get involved in the golf outing, mucc.org/golf to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. mucc.org/golf. But time is running out. Don't drag your feet on that one. All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I will tell the crowd out there in the parking lot to be patient. Charlie's coming soon. I know. The anticipation is just, they can't wait. Thank you so much for joining me this week here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I do certainly appreciate it. If you are a new listener, thank you. Hope you like what you hear. If not, send me an email. Let me know why. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. If you are a long-time listener, I appreciate your loyalty, appreciate you being around, and you know how we wrap up each week's show, and that is with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, who is with us once again, who I understand has a designated sheephead recipe. He's not going to take an existing recipe and modify it for sheephead. This is specific to sheephead, right, David?
Well, I don't know about that. You put me on the spot. Actually,
Charlie told me I'm just having some fun with you.
I know. You guys are such jokers.
We're jokers, all right. So what do you got for? I know it's a sheephead recipe, David.
Have you been catching any sheephead yet this year?
I have not caught one yet.
Give it to somebody that'll use it. Maybe back at the marina.
Hey, listen. I know you're a big fan of that fish.
I know it. I've cooked it up a lot of times, a lot of different ways too. At page 14, we for the TV show, I wrote the cookbook for Polynesian mahi-mahi, but we did walleye for the TV show. And so now I've adapted this recipe to sheephead. I've not cooked it personally myself. I haven't been fishing enough to get a lovely sheephead. But anyway,
before we go into it, just let me ask you real quick. You think it's a shame that sheephead get looked down on, right?
I do, and it's such good table fare too.
Okay.
It's nice snow white meat. Trim some of the red off because it does have a lot of red meat underneath the skin. You've probably never skinned one out, so
I have not. I do not know.
So you got to cut that away. And other than that, the meat is snow white and it's very, very mild. It's a predatory fish, because you catch them trolling for walleye.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All righty.
There you go.
All righty, let's hear it.
All righty. So you're going to need about 6 to 8 ounces of boneless, skinless per person. And you want to skin it deep. You want to cut away the red meat and leave it in like larger pieces if you possibly can after you pin bone it out, And all of these recipes are just a thought. Use what you like and whatever fits into your lifestyle. This has quite a few different varieties of food. So you need a small can of water chestnuts sliced, drained. You need a small can of pineapple chunks, about a cup of peach slices. Cut them down a little bit so they're not so large, so that it's going to fit in with the rest of this recipe. You're going to need a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch, a small can of mandarin oranges, a mango, peeled, sliced, and cut it into smaller pieces. A couple of kiwis, the same thing, peeled, sliced, cut into smaller pieces. A quarter cup of golden raisins. You can use whatever raisins you like, but golden gives it a nice aesthetic look to it. And a couple of tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, which is optional. If you like that little kind of a backwash of a tartness of vinegar, balsamic is really good to use, but it's optional. A couple ounces of Myers rum, a couple ounces of tropical schnapps, between a quarter and a half a cup of shredded coconut, and a couple of tablespoons of mandarin oranges, or whatever, mandarin nuts, whatever kind you like. You could use sliced pecans or walnuts, but I like the macadamia nuts myself. So, like I said, a lot of these ingredients are just whatever you want to use. You don't have to use them all. But we did for the TV show. So now, what you want to do after you get the sheephead cleaned, cut away the red meat, leave it in nice larger pieces. So you want to strain the fruits and save the juices, except for the water chestnuts. Heat about 3 cups. This is for 4 portions. So you want to heat about 3 cups of this liquid to bring it up to a boiling. Add the liquor. Cook it a couple of minutes. You don't have to flambe it or anything because you're going to cook the alcohol away. Thicken it up with melted cornstarch. A small amount at a time. You want it nice and thick, but not overly thick. You don't want it like mashed potatoes or nothing like that. Now you want to mix the thickened sauce with some of the chestnuts, the pineapple, the oranges, the kiwi, the raisin, whatever fruit you're going to use, and then mix in the vinegar. Place the fish skin side down in a large oven-proof casserole. Spoon equal amounts of sauce over the fish. Sprinkle with the nuts and the coconut all around. Make sure you try to get some on each of the pieces of fish. And you want to have enough so that it really imparts a good flavor. Bake uncovered 350 degrees for approximately 10 to 15 minutes or whenever the fish is done. Check and see if the fish is done and flaky. It's real nice and firm, so you might have to take 2 forks and try to pull it apart a little bit. If you can, then it's done. And if it's not done, you want to put it back in the oven for maybe 5 minutes more. Now, you can take and...
listen, I took up so much of your time that we are out of time. But you snuck that recipe in, David. I appreciate it.
We're done.
All right. I appreciate it.
Sheephead a la fruit.
Sheephead a la fruit from Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. I always appreciate Dave's input. Appreciate yours as well. Send me an email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Let me know what's on your mind, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.